Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Hooked on M. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these cute little mini amigurumi octopus keychains. So to get started today, of course, we're going to need some yarn. So there are multiple different yarn options you could select. This project is a great stash buster if you have a bunch of scraps laying around. This barely uses a quarter skein of yarn. So if you have a bunch of scrap yarn laying around, this is a great project for that. For this smaller guy here, I used a size 4 worsted weight, just regular acrylic blend yarn. And for today's video, I'm going to be using this peaches and cream yarn. I'm actually not sure what the color name on this is. This is from a different peaches and cream yarn I had. But you can see this is a medium size 4 yarn. It's a 100% cotton blend. You can see there. And this yarn recommends you use a 5mm crochet hook, but we're actually going to be using a 3.5mm crochet hook, so that we can get that nice tight look that you see here. This octopus I used the Premier Just Chenille yarn. It's a super bulky weight yarn, I think size 5. And I used a size 5.5mm hook with this one. So other than your yarn and hook for this project, we're going to need some safety eyes. I would typically use something a little bit smaller than this, but I ran out of the smaller ones, so these are the ones I'm going to use. And of course, their backs. And if you don't have safety eyes, that's completely okay. You can also just embroider some eyes on here with yarn, any color yarn, and a yarn needle. You don't need a stitch marker, but I do recommend it, especially for beginners. And then you're going to need some sort of stuffing. I have here polyfil. You can also use anything soft that you have laying around the house. I've used old scrap yarn before. You can also use tissues. Yeah, so anything you have laying around that's soft and will conform to a nice shape inside of our plushie. Okay, so let's get started. Amigurumi is typically worked in the round. I shouldn't say typically, it's almost always worked in the round. And to do that, we're going to start with a magic circle. I'm not going to go too in-depth on the magic circle in this video, just because there's hundreds upon thousands of videos on YouTube that you can search for, but I'm going to show you how I do my magic circle here very quickly. So you're going to take the non-working end of your yarn, which is the end of your yarn that's not attached to the skein. So this is our working end, and this is our non-working end here that's cut. So I'm going to take the non-working end and lay it across 2 fingers. I'm going to pinch here with my thumb. And then we're going to take the working end of our yarn and wrap it around the back of your fingers like this. Flip it back over, and you're going to make an X here. There we go. And then bring them across the back. So you have 2 lines here. So on this side of your fingers, you'll have the X, and this side 2 lines. Looking at these 2 lines, we're going to take our hook. You're going to insert your hook under the first line here. And then grab this second one here. You're going to pull that through, just like that, and then twist to create a loop like that. And then you're going to pull this all off your fingers. Hold your yarn as normal and chain 1. Feel free to go back and watch that as many times as you need to, or go find another video to walk you through that. If a magic circle is outside of your capabilities, which is totally fine, what you can do is go ahead and make a slip knot. And with that slip knot, we can chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch back into this first chain here. And that creates a ring that you can work into right here. I'm not a huge fan of this method just because I find it hard to work with, and it gets a little chunkier. But if that's what you're comfortable with, that's completely fine. So I'm just going to quickly make another magic circle. Alright, so once you have your magic circle here, we're going to chain 1. Here we go, we have our magic circle, chain 1. So when we're working with amigurumi, this specific style of crochets, as I mentioned before, always worked in the round. It is also comprised of mostly single crochets along with some increases and decreases, which are just variations on a single crochet, and I will show you in this video how to do that. But when we single crochet in amigurumi, typically when you do a regular single crochet, you would insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And if that's how you would like to do your single crochets for this project, that is completely fine. However, to get these more defined style single crochets, instead of doing your typical single crochet, what you're going to do is insert your hook, then wrap the yarn under. So we call this yarn under instead of yarn over. So typically you would go counterclockwise around the hook. This way we're going to go clockwise around the hook. Pull through, yarn under. Oh, yeah. Pull through 2. So there's 1. We're going to do that 8 times. So I'll show you that yarn over, yarn under single crochet again. Insert your hook, clockwise around the hook, pull through, clockwise around the hook, pull through 2. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And while we're working in this first round, we want to make sure that we are crocheting over both this main loop here as well as the non-working end of our yarn. So when we get to the 8th stitch, what you're going to do is take this non-working end and we're going to pull that tight and close this magic ring. And there it is. That can be a bit of a struggle. Don't worry if you're having a hard time with it. It just takes some force sometimes. So if we look at the top here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and start row 2. This row is where we start increases. So an increase in amigurumi is just putting 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So if you're following along with the pattern on the screen or with my pattern on my Ravelry account, you'll see INC, which stands for increase, and it says increase 8 times. So what we're going to do is insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, yarn under, pull through, yarn under, pull through 2, and that's our first one. And if you were using a stitch marker, now is the time to insert that. So you're going to insert that in the top of the stitch that we just made. Okay. And then we're going to place another single crochet in the same stitch that we placed the first one. There you go. So there's 2 stitches, and then in this next stitch here, insert your hook, yarn under, pull through, yarn under, pull through 2, and then again in that same stitch, insert your hook, yarn under, pull through, yarn under, pull through 2. And we're going to keep doing that all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now we're back at the beginning. So at the end of row 2, if you count around the outside, you'll have 16 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you can go ahead and take that stitch marker out if you haven't already, and we're going to go ahead and start row 3. In row 3, we're going to single crochet and then increase 8 times. So what that means is in this first stitch, we place 1 single crochet. Go ahead and place your stitch marker if you're using it. And then in this next stitch, we're going to increase, so 2 single crochets. 1, 2. And that's 3 stitches total for that pattern repeat. So now in the next stitch, 1 single crochet. In the next stitch, 1, 2 single crochets. And we're just going to continue that all the way around till we get back to the beginning. And I'm placing 1 more increase of those 2 single crochets in this last stitch. And again, if you count around, you should have 24 stitches here. In row 4, you're going to single crochet, increase, single crochet. So here's what that means. I'm going to place that first single crochet in that first stitch. Go ahead and place your stitch marker. Then increase or 2 single crochet in the next stitch. Then single crochet in the next stitch. So you're just going to continue that pattern all the way around. 1 single crochet, increase or 2 single crochet in the same stitch, 1 single crochet in the next. One more time, that's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch. You're going to do that all the way around, and when you get to the end, you should have 32 stitches total. Alright, now I'm placing my last stitch here. 32. Okay, we can go ahead and take that stitch marker out. Now, before we move on to the next part, so the next part is you're going to put one single crochet in each single crochet round for the next 4 rows. So before we do that, I always get lost when I'm doing 4 rows or so in a row like that. So I'm just going to teach you how to count these rows. So as you can see, this circle here, that's our row 1. And then you can see this next bump here is row 2, row 3, row 4. So we're going to single crochet 32 single crochets around in a circle 4 times until you have 8 total rows. Before we do that, something that I like to do just so that I know that nothing's going to happen to my finished product. This is not a mandatory step, but it's something that I like to do is taking this end of the magic circle here, and I just like to put a knot in it just so that I know that the size and shape of this hole isn't going to change. There's no chance of anything falling out. So there we go. Alright, so now I'm going to go do 4 rows of single crochets for 32 single crochets around, and I will see you when I'm done. So now I'm at the end of those 4 rows, and I'll just count with you here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see after that 4th row with the increases, when we start doing the same amount of stitches all the way around, we have those 4 rows that kind of, instead of going out this way, they're starting to go down. So yeah, so now we're going to start our decreases, and this is just a little bit trickier than the increases, but it's not impossible, I promise. Alright, so in this row 9, we're going to do is we're going to single crochet in this first stitch here, then go ahead and place your stitch marker there if you'd like. And then to decrease, what we're going to do is insert your hook into this next stitch, yarn under, pull through. Let me try that again. I only got a couple of those strands. So again, insert into this stitch, yarn under and pull through just like a normal single crochet. And then instead of yarn under and pull through 2 like we would a normal single crochet, we're going to stick our hook into this next stitch here. Let's go ahead and insert your hook there, yarn under, pull through. So we have 3 loops on our hook. Now you're going to yarn under and pull through all 3 of those loops, and that's a decrease. You can also see this notated as a single crochet 2 together, because as you can see, it's kind of like making 2 single crochets and putting them together. So, and then we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then again single crochet in the next stitch, and then another decrease. So insert your hook, yarn under, pull through, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn under, pull through, yarn under, pull through 3. And single crochet in the next. You're going to continue that pattern all the way around until you have 24 stitches. So it'll be 24 at the end, and you're going to continue that pattern of single crochet, decrease, single crochet all the way around. Alright, now we've made it back to the beginning. And we're going to do this next row a little bit differently. So we're going to be working in only the back loops. So for this row, the repeat is going to be single crochet in one stitch, decrease in the next. And I'll have a total of 16 stitches in this row. So if you're looking at the top of your work, you can see that all of your single crochets here have 2 loops. You see that? 2 loops. So before we do this, you're going to want to make sure that your amigurumi is turned the right way out. So you'll be able to see on one side, you'll have these more defined stitches, and on the other, it'll be these kind of slanted, undefined. They're not super undefined, but they're also not very defined stitches. You'll see a more defined horizontal line here. As on the right side, which should be on the outside, you'll have these V's or X's, which is what you want to see. So make sure we have the right side out. We're going to looking at these stitches, we have these 2 loops right here's the front loop and the back loop. So when we're working on this row, we're going to be inserting our hook only into this back loop. So instead of inserting here like you normally would with a single crochet stitch, you're just going to insert in this back loop. All right. So again, for this repeat, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the back loop only, 1 decrease, 1 single crochet, 1 decrease. All right, so you're going to go ahead and do that all the way around, and you can see we have this line forming here, and that's exactly what you want. All right, so here I am placing my last decrease. And there we go. As you can see, we have that ridge all the way around there. So before we go any further, go ahead and take your pull this loop long, just like I just did. So you're just gonna pull out some extra slack there. And when I'm doing stuff without my hook in my project, I like to place a stitch marker in the loop so I don't lose it. I'm just gonna put my stitch marker here. Leave that. And now we're going to place our safety eyes. So you can really place them anywhere you like. I like to put mine between rows 5 and 6, about 5 or 6 stitches apart. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If you want to count from the top, row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I like to place them between these 2 rows. So I'm just going to place this one here. I'm not going to put the back on it yet just because I want to see what it looks like from the outside with them both placed first. And then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches and place that second eye right there. All right, and I like how those look first try, so we're going to go ahead and pop those backs on there. And if you're embroidering, if you're embroidering those eyes, you can go ahead and place them in the same place or somewhere different if you'd like somewhere different. I'm just going to pop those backs on there. And there we have our little octopus head. Alright, and now we are going to stuff him. So just make sure you have all of these out of the way. I'm going to take my polyfil here. And there we go. He's all stuffed. Now I stuffed this one a little bit less than I typically do because this one came out almost a little bit too stiff. I didn't like how stiff he was, so this one's a little bit less stuffed than I would usually do it. We're going to see how that comes out. But you can stuff it to your liking. Right, so now I'm going to insert my hook back into this loop that we stitch marked. You're going to pull that loop back down to normal size. And for this last row, we're going to put 8 decreases around. So we're just going to put a decrease in every open stitch. And you can go back to working through both loops in those single crochets. So once you get to the end of those 8 decreases, you're going to go ahead and chain 1 and cut a long tail, or however you like to finish off. Just make sure that you leave a long tail for sewing. And then to sew this end shut, there are 2 ways you can do it. The most common way is probably to take a yarn needle in the end and take this yarn needle around the outside here, just kind of weaving in and out of the stitches, and then pull it closed. I'm not going to do it that way because it's very rare that I ever actually have a yarn needle, so I'm going to show you how I do it with a crochet hook. So what I'm going to do is insert my crochet hook into this single crochet decrease that's next to the knot that we made. I'm just going to, from the inside to the outside, and pull that tail through. And then in this, I'm going to skip, I'm going to go in this next stitch, but I'm going to go in the same way from the inside to the outside. Pull that through. And you're just going to do that to all 8 of these stitches here, insert from the inside to the outside. Pull this through. Right here, I'm pulling it through this last decrease. And once you get all the way to the end, you should be able to just pull on this. It will take a little bit of force. And it'll, oh, I snapped my string there. That's okay. And that'll close up. So if you don't snap your string, you're going to want to tie a knot here and then tuck that end in. But I'm just going to kind of tuck that piece in. All right. And now we have the head of our little guy. And I usually like to just kind of roll them around in my hand a little bit to kind of fluff up the shape a little bit. And there is our head. All right, so now we're going to add the legs. So these legs are worked into this ridge that we created here, as you can see. All right, so to do that, we're going to take our yarn, same one that, or you can do a different color. I've done that a couple times. It turns out cute to do a different color for the legs, but you're going to take your yarn and start with a slip stitch, or sorry, a slip knot. I won't go too in depth on how I make a slip knot here, but this is how I do it. Which is not typically how people make their slip knots, but I wrap it around one finger, the working end around your finger, holding the not working end here, and I pinch where they meet here at this loop, and then I push a loop from the not working end through the loop that we made, and it just makes a loop there. You just make your slip knot however you make your slip knot. We're going to pull that tight on our crochet hook, and you're going to, you can start anywhere. You can, for a long time I started right at the beginning of this ridge or the end of this ridge, but I find that it makes the legs line up better if you don't do that. So I like to start opposite of where that break is, over here. So I'm just going to insert my hook into one of these ridges, and you're going to just do a little slip stitch to secure that slip knot there, and chain one. Now in this loop we're going to place 5 half double crochets. So to do a half double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. So you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So again, let's yarn over, insert into the same loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you can see, all 5 of those half double crochets are coming from the same loop there. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next loop here. So not the one we were just in, but the next one. And that's going to anchor the leg down. And then we're going to slip stitch again in the next. And then in this next loop, we're going to place 5 more half double crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to do that way all the way along. These are just 2 stitches, and 5 half double crochets in 1 stitch. Alright, so I'm just putting in my last leg here. Four, 5, and then I'm going to place one last single crochet or slip stitch here just to anchor that leg down, and then chain 1 and cut your yarn or however else you'd like to finish off. Then we're just going to weave in these ends. Alright, and there we have our little guy. There's one last step just to make him, you can leave him like this, or you can add this little loop on top to make a keychain. I'm going to show you how I do that. So you're going to want to cut off about 6 inches of yarn, or less. It doesn't have to be that much, just enough that you have room to make a knot. What we're going to do is go parallel to the eyes. So you're going to insert your hook on in between rows 1 and 2, parallel to your right eye. Insert there, and you're going to have your hook come out in a straight line on the other side. Then you're going to just grab that piece of yarn with your hook and pull one end all the way through. There we go. So we have a piece of yarn going through the top there. And you're going to bring both of those pieces of yarn to the top and tie a knot. There we go. And then I'm going to just cut off these long ends here. I always overestimate how much yarn I actually need to tie a knot. And then I'm going to kind of just pull on this and use my crochet hook to bury this knot in here. All right. So now that's buried inside, our octopus guy is all done. There he is. Alright, so there we have our little octopus amigurumi keychain. You can use this loop to attach it to a split ring if you want, or any other kind of keychain attachment. And there you have it. Please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or through email or the comment section if you have any questions, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.